and the other threads can't do what they want. So thread.sleep should tell it to sleep for 10 milliseconds. And that should actually give enough time for the computer to do everything else. You can put more or less, but we'll do that for now because it's called constantly anyway, so that's a lot of sleeping. Right, it's not liking it, and that's because you can have an exception when thread is called. An exception is when the operation that you're trying to do doesn't actually succeed, and then Java wants to catch the error and alert you about it so that A, your program doesn't hang and reboot your PC like it might on C++ in the old days or something, but also B, just so you can get a decent error message and then catch that. And the reason to catch one of these errors is so you can deal with it elegantly. And I say catch because Java uses the term catch. Right, so you put your pointer over that and it tells you, and then use Alt-Enter. And it'll say a few options. I usually use surround with try catch. What that means is it'll try to do this, and if it crashes or has a problem, it will catch and send an error to the screen so you'll be able to see it. Now, as it happens, in all my life I've never seen thread.sleep crash, so you can be guaranteed certainly it won't crash, right? Or there's a neater way to do this. If you want to keep your game loop looking a little bit cleaner, you can use the second option, which is adds a throw clause. So the throw clause appears here, look, at the top of this method, and it keeps things clean. I don't normally do it like that, but for now, tutorial I will. And the interrupted exception just means that, yeah, if you were sleeping, you could be interrupted. I usually put the error message insomnia just to be funny, you know, problems with sleep. Anyway, it repaints now and it sleeps. So if we run it now, surely with enough time to sleep, we should see the output of the text, unless I'm completely wrong, which I appear to be. Okay, so actually what we need to do is add the game object to the Jframe. Now I would actually have expected it to paint anyway, but apparently it won't paint unless it's actually added to a Jframe. So we made our window and we made our game. There's our window, and you can comment this nicely by saying my window code and then my game code, so you can understand it later, or someone else can if you pass on the project. How do you add the game to the window? Okay, so you get the name of the window, my frame dot add, and add allows you to add any component, and because my cool Pong game is extending from JPanel, which is a component itself because it inherits from extends component, then we can add game because it's a type of component. Now this will definitely paint. The text in here will definitely do that because now the game is added to the frame. So when you call repaint, it requests a repaint, which in turn calls paint. Actually, that's a little bit misleading because most times the method that you call has got the same name as the method that gets called. Apart from, in this instance, repaint is actually a trigger for paint. Okay, so you got the Pong games appeared, and yes, we finally have our text infinitely scrolling. And that is, you can see the scroll bar moving there. This means that it's we have our game loop working. It's repainting and it's sleeping, and the window opens and it's all working. But now, what's the most important bit, obviously, is to see a ball moving around, right? Okay, so we'll plan on making a method for this. A method being, as I said earlier, a chunk of code which executes when you call upon it. And what would we call it, right? It's going to be in the game object, so that you write game, and then dot means you're accessing methods within the game, object, but we want to make our own method, not one of these ones on this list. So we'll call it move ball. It's come up with a red line because, well, obviously move ball doesn't exist. Game is of type my Pong game, which is this class, and if you look in here, there is no such method as move ball, and there is no method in JPanel, so I can't override it. So, well, the only option is to write it ourselves, and this is probably the fun bit, the most fun bit, and I know I've taken a while to get here, but thought it was a relatively good explanation I've given anyway. So we only want this method for ourselves, so we make it private. We don't want it to return anything, so we make it void. Again, more on that later. And we know what we want to call it: move ball. Open and close brackets, because that's the syntax of writing a method. Open and close curly brackets, because that's the syntax of enclosing a method. That's the top bit there. Anyway, so move ball. What we're going to do in move ball? Well, I guess first we need to be able to see a ball, right? We don't. Let's turn this off for now. Here I'm painting because we know it works. We don't want to draw the ball in move ball because that is logic only. You try to separate logic from graphics drawing, and then it makes life a lot easier down the other end later on down the road. But in Paint, there's a graphics object there. This is exactly where we should draw it. And the command for drawing a circle is annoyingly g.draw oval, and it tells you here what you have to pass in: x, y, width, height. Well, x is its x position on the screen horizontally from left to right. Y is its y position on the screen vertically from top to bottom. So 0, 0 would be in the top left here. 1920 by 1080 would be in the bottom right here. You get the general idea, because that's my screen resolution, is 1920 by 1080. So you double click that and it'll just put in whatever values you can think of based on what you've got lying around, which it knows. Actually, why does it pick width then? Oh, okay, width is actually somewhere in the Java scope. Alright, well, let's just test it. Let's put 100. So that means x will be 100 long, pixels, x 100 pixels in, y 100 pixels down, so somewhere around here maybe. And the width, well, that's like x width, or width and height, so we'll just put 30, 30, right? That's a ball, isn't it? On the screen, you'll be able to see that. Right, so let's run this. Now, what will we expect to happen? The paint method will call the main method will run, make our window, make our game object, and then we get caught in this loop here infinitely, which will move the ball, repaint the game screen, and sleep for 10 milliseconds. Well, move the ball is empty, so that's got nothing to do. So it jumps in and out of that quickly. Paint. Super Paint, it calls the JPanel. You don't have to worry about that. That just keeps it sort of working in that. And then underneath it calls g.drawOval. 100 in, 100 down, 30, 30. There we are. That's right. 100 pixels from the left of the window to the right of the window. 100 pixels from the top of the window to down where it is. And it's drawn an oval. Now we want that to be, and that's 30 by 30 by the way, that 30 pixels wide, 30 pixels high. We want that to be filled actually, so instead of draw oval, you can write fill oval. Quickly check that. There we go. It's a filled oval. But it's still not moving, is it? It's annoying. Right, here we go. So what you need to do is make two variables, one for x and one for y. That is going to be the ball x and the ball y. So instead of 100, put x and y in there. Which means anytime we change that x, it'll change down here, which means it'll change the ball position on the x coordinate. Change y, it'll change the coordinate on the y coordinate. So now you can see we're getting somewhere. So what happens if I just do x plus plus